Hello, I'm Nelson Stefano, and today we're looking at Mystery Science Theater 3000. Science Theater 3000, or MST3K as I'll be calling it because it's simply quicker to say, is a scripted sci-fi comedy series that aired from 1988 to 1999. Each episode ran for approximately 90 minutes and was a single-cam show filmed in Minnesota. The show's basic structure was built around the main characters making fun of a bad movie that they were watching, with comedic host segments breaking up the episodes at specific intervals 20 minutes, 40 minutes, etc., etc. These host segments occasionally had an overarching plot, but oftentimes they didn't and were just sort of related to the film we're watching. Again, it varied from episode to episode. MST3K is pretty simple. In fact, it's explained in the theme song of every episode. Janitor Joel Robinson is shot up into space by his evil boss, Dr. Forrester, and is forced to watch bad movies in a mad science experiment. In order to keep himself sane, Joel has built several robot companions to watch the movies with and make, witty commentary. That's how you get the show. This continues for a few seasons until eventually Joel manages to escape the satellite he was stuck on. In a panic, Dr. Forrester kidnaps a temp worker by the name of Mike Nelson to serve as a replacement test subject, and from then on, the show sort of goes off the rails, don't worry, in a good way, for the remaining seasons. MST3K's origins lie primarily with its creator, Joel Hodgson, who infused a lot of his tastes, humor, and style into the show. For example, the show borrows a lot from the 1972 sci-fi film Silent Running, particularly the guy isolated in space with robot companions. And the movie theater silhouette iconography is inspired by the illustration to the Elton John song I've Seen That Movie Too. Due to MST3K's low budget, the lines between the cast and crew were very blurred. Primary actors like Joel Hodgson, Jim Mallon, Trace Bolio, Mike Nelson, Kevin Murphy, and Bill Corbett were not only actors, but also were the writers, directors, and producers of the show. Hodgson and Mallon were also the executive producers until their separate departures. Everybody also played multiple characters. Hodgson was kind of the only exception to this, also due to low budget. The company that was formed from Mallon and Hodgson to produce the show was Best Brains Incorporated. After the show ended, the key players split up, but ended up doing projects that were very similar to Mystery Science Theater 3000. The film crew and cinematic Titanic are good examples of this, but both had pretty short lifespans. On the contrast, Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy created Riff Tracks in 2006, which is pretty much just them doing a similar shtick to Mystery Science Theater, but as more audio tracks instead of straight up episodes. Riff Tracks still exist to this day, and prior to the pandemic, they were still doing live shows and, creating tracks. MST3K did win a Peabody Award in 1993, and was actually also nominated twice for a Primetime Emmy in both 1994 and 1995. Sadly, they lost both times, but the fact they were nominated still shows something. The series is considered a flagship show by Comedy Central when it was airing on the network, but the show gained most of its following through a combination of tape sharing and the early internet. For those unfamiliar, tape sharing was basically what they did before YouTube. During the Comedy Central era, an episode cost about $35,000, but most of that was used to secure film rights. The cost was kept down by staying in Minnesota to film, as opposed to moving the production to New York or Los Angeles. Here's some fun facts. None of the major players who worked on the show in its inception were there by its end. The show survived as long as it did through channel hopping from the local network KTMA to Comedy Central to Sci-Fi, and the show was originally unscripted but became scripted after the move to Comedy Central. The argument over this change caused Josh Weinstein, one of the original creators, to leave. This show works because it capitalizes on the base human desire to make fun of terrible entertainment and crack jokes. The humor is simply amazing and can go from corny gags to intelligent comedy with ease. Despite the show doing things that would normally be considered a shark jump, say channel hops, cast and crew changes, and time travel plots, MST3K never fails in quality and actually gets better as it goes on.